Hey everyone, Christian Louvier here, CEO of Sell Personal. I wanted to go over today one of our recipes at a high level of how we do strategic personal email lead generation. This is something that I've been doing for about 10 years, the entire time that I was in SaaS sales, to get my email response rates open. So as most salespeople know, or founders of companies, when you get marketing materials or branding materials from a marketing company or an agency, they're usually generalized. They're not specific for an audience. And so what I learned really quickly as a sales rep is I had to be able to personalize my message, and for the not only for the person, but for the channel. And so I actually kind of created this method. It's become a lot easier to do with technology versus before, where I had to mix and match different technology pieces together. I still do that, but it's a lot more scalable and refined. So in about 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to teach you right now what we do. You're going to increase your email cold response rates by over 900%. And in some ways, I'm being conservative. When you start, it might be higher than that. And the reason why is because if you look at industry averages on market deliverability of, like, Marketo campaigns where you're sending out thousands of emails and you're only getting 1-2% response rates, you're not going to make an impact like that. On the campaigns that we do, we average 20% response rates. So you should be able to get at least 10, and that's still a 450% increase over the average. So this is what you need to do. You need to draw a star house diagram. I drew one here ahead of time because it's a completely different exercise, but I'll go over it at a high level. You need Mixmax. You need Gmail for business, which Mixmax runs on top of. There's other comparable tools to Mixmax. To me, it's the best one that I've found. And then you need leads with personalized information, and I'll give you some examples of that as well. So I'm going to go over the star house diagram real quick. So you're looking at obviously a star inside of a house. Zero is the most important, and 4 is the most important. The reason why is because you have to have a strong buyer persona. So typically when you start an email, we don't want to send it to 100 people, 1,000 people. We want to pick who can we target really nice and tight, and 25 to 50 people that fit into a buyer persona or a job title. So that's that. We want to get our targeted leads. So however you do that, again, I have whole other exercises on how we do that. Then that leads to leads replied rate. So that's your first metric you need to track. So that's our first level of engagement, and then down to verbal leads, which is number 3. So that it's starting to become a deal. So that's your second metric, and then obviously sales is the most important metric. So everything starts from 0 and everything ends at sales. So that's the Star House methodology. So let's get into some of the specifics real quick on what our results have been and how we're executing here. Yep. So what you're looking at here is what we call Mixmax, and I'm just showing you the results real quick. I'll jump around here, but you can see we've got multiple Mixmax accounts. The sequences is the feature that we're using for this. You can see that on this particular campaign, we got 81% open rate, which is incredible. For most of the campaign, it was hovering around 60, which is still unbelievable. Reply rate is at 31%, which is unheard of. You can see the one we did before this was at 43%. Some of these other campaigns are lower because they were simply options to share articles on social media. So there actually was no direct engagement on here. But anyway, focusing on something like this, you can see we had an 80% response rate, 31% reply rate. And what we did is we created a 5-stage sequence. So I'm over in Mixmax again still. I just jumped into a separate tab. So you have stages. It's essentially, if you've heard of email drip and Marketo or MailChimp or whatever it is, same concept, except it's coming from your personal or your individual business account address. So rather than coming out from marketing at whatever your company is.com, this is coming from Christian at sellpersonal.com or whatever your email address is. So you can see I have these 3 stages. The first stage is right here. Type any of these variables in the subject line or click to insert it. So these are the variables that we came up with. And you might think, okay, email, first name, no big deal. 2 things on that. The email address, everybody can get that. The first name, it's how you use it. It's not that you can get it. It's how you use it. Then the last 3 things is we made 3 personalized notes on the first email at scale. So we did that at scale. It's not 80% of this email was templated, but the last 20%, that extra 20% of work that you could put in, the extra hour that you could do or hire an assistant to do, is the difference between a 2% response rate and averaging a 20% response rate. So do the work. So look, when you look right here, first name went into the subject line of every email. So all of a sudden, this person's getting it on their iPhone, and it's got their first name on the subject line. So all of a sudden they know there's no way this is a template. And then obviously this is templatized. They may or may not know that. I don't know. Close that out. The subject line note. So this is another custom field we put in there. But again, in the subject line, in the span of, I don't know, 8 to 10 words, we've got 2 customized things that they're going to see on their mobile device, iPhone, Android, whatever. So at least they know it's custom, right? And when you get into the body of the email, a lot of this is all templated. They may think that, they may not. I don't know. But we got an 80% response rate, so we're doing something right. Here's the last piece. Sorry, the second piece of personalized content, most popular content. We were reaching out to content marketers in Atlanta about their most popular content. So we had a link to each of their personal content. So when they get into the email, they said we said that they had this piece of content. And go real quick, I glossed over this, but famous David Ogilvy quote, the godfather of advertising, basically said 80% of the work goes into the headline of an article, because if you can't get them into reading the article, then what you put in the article doesn't matter. So a lot of work needs to go into your headlines. And then the last piece of this that's key, the PS. Something I've always done, but now I can do it at scale with Mixmax, the personal note. So at the very bottom of this email, they're seeing, oh my God, this whole thing might be templated. How did he put a PS in here on however many emails that went out, right? So that's the first part, is personalizing each stage of this process. The second part is you need to have at least 4 follow-ups, and I recommend 5. The most I've ever done is 7. But basically what we're doing at every stage of the process is personalizing a little bit extra, taking them through the process, letting them know we're there. People get busy, they forget. Most of our response rates, heavy response, either comes after the second email or after the 4th email. I don't really know why the 3rd gets skipped a lot for some reason. So on the 3rd emails, I'll usually like beta test things. So on the 3rd email, I actually put, Mixmax allows you to put yes or no questions in here that creates like an instant poll that's embedded in the email. So I'll A/B test things like this on the 3rd stage, because for some reason it's always been my lowest response rate. I don't know why. The 4th email for us is always strong, because it's basically thought I'd try one more time, and that little sentence makes them scroll down to see what happened. And then stage 5 is a breakup email, which is kind of hokey and cheesy, but it works, I guess, because it makes an emotional attachment to somebody. That's where we see it's our second highest performing, is always stage 5 if we use the breakup sequence. Okay, so that's the sequence. So how did we get the personal information in there? So obviously I'll be protecting some of my clients' personal information, but you see like this particular email with Greg, and I'll show you the actual emails here in a second, but you look at like the email with Greg. So if you look at columns G through I, these are the 3 personalized areas of what we're doing. So the personal note, how different is it being in packaging versus healthcare? So the PS at the bottom of his email had this note, and Matt beneath that, and then Melissa beneath that, and Sangram beneath that. They each had their own personal note. Remember the subject line note? So I had the switch, because the switch was in reference to the PS. So if he's reading the email, he's like, what is this switch about? It's all the way at the bottom at the PS. And everybody always scrolls to the top and bottom of an email or a landing page or whatever it may be. It's just how we read now. And then the medium gifts for Matt was related to an article that he did. Thanks for your advice. That came from the CMO of a particular brand that had written an article, and it was specialized for a group of people that I was on the receiving end of. And then Sangram had mentioned something about Dan Pink. I had met him at an event, so I was able to tie that in. So again, I sent out a mass amount of emails, but I was able to add these personalized notes into there by taking the extra hour to customize this CSV file. So Again, there's a lot of details I could go into, but you get the gist of it. And so I just want to show you like some of the responses that we got, because two of these examples are going to lead to, I've already led to verbal deals inside of 10 days. Another one led to, and then another one led to us being pushed in front of 50 people completely as a new opportunity that I hadn't even thought of. So let me show you what I mean by that. It's always great when you can connect with people. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the response from Greg. This is the first, he responded after the first email, and he's telling us, thank you for the note. And he's responding to the PS. He read the whole email, because he's telling me that being in packaging is way different than healthcare. And then he's asking a pricing question about the cost. So he's obviously interested. I got the right buyer persona. The second one I wanted to point to, let me make sure I get my screen share right, is this is one of my friends, and I knew she had been sick over the weekend. So it's in the subject line. The PS is asking her, how are you feeling? Now, what's neat here is if you look at, she doesn't have an opportunity for me, but she's speaking in front of 40 people in an industry event, probably 40, 50 people, whatever shows up at these industry events, and they're all my buyer persona. And she's saying, I'll give you 2 or 3 slides worth of space in my deck that I'm going to present. And so our company, my name is going to be in front of 50 people. And I didn't do anything other than reach out to her and engage her. The engagement is key. It's about engaging. It's not about closing. I have a saying for all of my team. It's always be scaling, not always be closing. And the last piece I want to show you is, even if they call you out, which I've been called out before, they engage with you and they realize how much work you put in on the personalization. That makes the difference, and it leads to an opportunity. So when I see this, Esprit wrote me back and said, it seems as though this is positioned to be a personal message. It was sent to many people, scale and drive leads, and you only plugged in a custom PS and podcast name. Am I right? I wrote back and told her, little column A, little column B, it was only sent to 13 people, and I did research all myself. 95% of what we do, meaning Sell Personal, is productized, so it doesn't change. So there's not many ways I can like spin it. And so I tell her that, and basically tell her that, look, I'm being forthright. I just want to let you know that I'll listen to it, and that what we do, we're really good at. And so there's only so many ways that I can spend that. She immediately writes back and says, I'll let you and Natasha explore. She handles our marketing. Thank you for your personal, candid email response. Much appreciated. Think about it from her perspective. She's got a popular podcast. It's about women in tech, obviously something she's very passionate about. And she's getting 150, 200 emails, most of which are from vendors, probably not people actually listening to the show. And I've done both in one email, and it's going to lead to, it's led to an opportunity with her marketing coordinator. So that's the quick and dirty on how we create 900% increase in cold email outreach. I'll throw the whiteboard back up here so you can see it, screenshot or whatever. But the key takeaway from all this is you've got a lot of general materials out there. There's information coming at you all the time. There's information coming at your prospects all the time. The quicker that you can figure out your buyer persona, personalize the messaging and how that messaging goes into the channels, the faster you're going to be able to make sales and hit quota. If you need anything, you can find me just about any social network, CLOUVI. Email me, Christian with an E, at sellpersonal.com. You can even shoot me a text message, 678-862-5554. Thanks, guys. See you soon.